Hello everyone, today I'll continue sharing with you the story of the single mother, Tiểu San. I hope you enjoy the video. This morning the sky was clear, and the sunlight was just warm enough for gardening. Tiểu San put on her old albabier, rolled up her sleeves, and stepped into the backyard garden. The rows of cassava she planted months ago were now ready to harvest. Seeing the tall, sturdy plants with their lush green leaves, her heart felt light, both excited and happy. She bent down, gripped the base of a plant, and pulled with all her strength. The cassava roots, buried deep in the moist soil, were stubborn, making her use almost all her energy to lift them out. When the smooth, white, plump roots finally emerged from the dirt, Tiểu San burst into laughter by herself. "Oh my, this year's harvest is amazing!" One plant after another, she gathered almost a full basket. The smell of fresh soil clung to her clothes, her sleeves were slightly muddy, but her heart felt peaceful. She thought about bringing some to the market to sell, and using the rest to make bon koimi, the humble childhood cake she had always loved. By noon, she carried the heavy basket on her back and slowly walked home. Since the cassava was still covered in dry soil, she set the basket down in the yard, fetched water, and began washing each root. Water splashed onto her arms and clothes, but she cleaned them thoroughly so they would look nice and fresh at the market. Just as she finished washing one big batch and was catching her breath, she heard a familiar vehicle stop at the gate. Hoai appeared, holding a bag of pastries he had just picked up on the way. The moment he saw Tiểu San crouched beside the wash basin, hair messy from the wind, sleeves muddy, but smiling brightly, he couldn't help but chuckle. Well, my little girl is hard-working today, huh?" Tiểu San looked up, slightly embarrassed, wiping her hands. "I'm just washing the cassava, the soil sticks too much." Hoai stepped closer, his eyes lighting up at the full basket. "You harvested this much? Let me help." Before she could answer, he rolled up his sleeves, sat beside her, and dipped his hands into the cool water. "Give it to me, I'll wash them. You must be tired doing all this alone." At that moment, the afternoon breeze drifted by, carrying the scent of earth, cassava, and a gentleness Tiểu San couldn't put into words. She looked at Hoai for a long moment, the corner of her lips lifting slightly, her heart softening. By the time they finished washing the last batch, the sun had started leaning to one side. Light filtered through the mango leaves, scattering warm golden patches across the yard. Hoai stood and stretched, the sleeves of his shirt still wet in places. Tiểu San rinsed her hands and brushed off droplets from her clothes. Both of them looked at the basket of cassava, each root white, round, and beautiful, piled neatly. Tiểu San sighed in relief, feeling both tired and happy. Hoai glanced at her sun-flushed cheeks and laughed softly. "You're really something. If the two of us team up like this, we could open a whole stall at the market, not just one basket." His voice was deep but full of sincere appreciation. Tiểu San covered her mouth, laughing like a child being praised. Her eyes curved into crescents. Her laughter was gentle like the breeze, yet somehow it made the whole garden seem brighter. After tidying up, they walked to the wooden swing under the plum tree, a spot where Tiểu San usually sat in the evenings to unwind. Today, the swing had one more person on it, and the air felt unusually peaceful. Hoai placed the warm bag of pastries into her hands. "I saw they were just taken out of the oven, so I grabbed a few. Not sure if you'll like them." When she opened the bag, a sweet aroma filled the air. She broke off a piece, blew on it, and tasted it. Her eyes widened in exaggerated shock, because it was delicious. "Oh my God, this is so good," she exclaimed with genuine delight. "I mean it. It's really good, I'm not just saying that. Here, try one." But Hoai didn't eat. He leaned back on the swing, watching her enjoy the pastry like it was the best part of his day. "Seeing you eat like that is enough for me." Her cheeks warmed slightly, but she continued eating. Then, suddenly, her eyes dimmed a little. She put the pastry down and gazed toward the garden where her cassava and vegetables grew, things she had tended with all her heart. Her voice softened, honest and a little sad. "You know, when I was little, I used to follow my grandma to sell cakes. When I grew up, I always dreamed of opening a tiny bakery, or even just a small food stall. I wanted to sell all the simple dishes I love, bon koimi, bon cam, green bean sweet soup, and some savory dishes too. She paused, taking a long breath as if pressing down something inside. But, it feels so far away now. I still have so many things to worry about. I don't have much money, I don't know anything about running a shop, and I don't dare to dream like before anymore. Sometimes just working day by day feels like it's enough already. Her smile faded, losing the spark it had before. Hai turned toward her, looking at her downcast face. A few strands of hair fell over her forehead, her small hands were holding the pastry bag like it was a dream she once held with burning passion, one she now feared touching because it might hurt. He gently placed his hand on the back of the swing, letting it sway softly. You think your dream feels far, because you're alone. His voice was low but certain. Tieu San slowly looked up, her eyes shimmering with surprise. Hai met her gaze, the reflection of the sunset shining a warm certainty in his eyes. But you're not alone anymore, Tieu San. Just one sentence, soft, simple, yet it touched the deepest part of her heart. The afternoon breeze began to blow gently, the wooden swing swayed, and Tieu San still sat there hugging the bag of pastries, her eyes lost in her own thoughts. Hai watched her for a long moment before he finally spoke, his voice soft but more serious than usual. If you have a passion, don't let it go. If you want to open a food stall or a bakery one day, the first thing you need is to learn more dishes. To gain experience, and to do what you truly love. He said it so naturally, as if her dream wasn't distant at all. Tieu San quietly turned to him, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Hai continued. I know a really good cooking class. The teacher is kind, teaches thoroughly, and very hands-on. If you want, I can enroll you. Tieu San immediately grew flustered. She lowered her head, her fingers tightening on her lap. I need to think about it. I feel like I'm troubling you. Hai chuckled, half gentle, half teasing. When exactly have you ever troubled me? I can't recall. Tieu San shook her head quickly, face flushing red. I'm serious. I'm embarrassed. Knowing how independent she had always been, Hai leaned a little closer, his tone sincere yet warm with a hint of humor. Don't overthink it. Just consider this class an investment in my future chef. Later when you open your bakery, you'll be the owner, and I'll just show up to eat for free. He gave her a playful wink, making her want to laugh and hide at the same time. Then Hai gently took her hand, his palm warm and steady. His voice deepened, slow and heartfelt. Tieu San, you deserve a chance to chase your passion. I want to see you happy. I want to see you doing what you love. This class, it's not a burden, and it's not something you owe me. It's something I want to do for you. Those words touched the softest place inside her. Tieu San bit her lip. Since childhood, she had lived independently, used to carrying everything alone, used to refusing help so she wouldn't owe anyone anything. So now, someone offering her support so naturally, only made her more overwhelmed. She spoke honestly, her voice small like a kitten. If you say so, then I'll accept. But, when I can, I want to pay you back. I don't want. She didn't finish before Hai gently tapped her forehead with a finger, like he was reminding her. All you need to think about is learning. The rest, let me worry about it. He smiled softly. How could my future chef be calculating with me over something this tiny? Tieu San looked up, her eyes shimmering, her heart trembling at every word he uttered. She had agreed, yet somehow she felt lighter, warm, as if a weight she had carried alone for so long had been lifted. That afternoon, in the small garden, with the sweet scent of pastries and the swing swaying in the breeze, her dream of opening a bakery, for the first time in years, no longer felt so out of reach. Because now, she wasn't walking alone. A few days later, Tieu San's house became livelier than ever. Each afternoon after work, Hai would stop by, never once arriving empty-handed. Sometimes it was a thick notebook for her to write recipes in, sometimes colored markers to categorize steps. One day he even brought a tiny precise scale, cute heart-shaped molds, and a wooden spatula. "This one makes stirring batter less tiring," he said casually. Watching the supplies pile up in her small kitchen corner, Tieu San felt both warm and embarrassed. "You buy too much. I feel shy." Hai only smiled, his tone light, giving her no room to refuse. "What's there to be shy about? You're going to school to chase your dream, and I'm just helping a little. Besides, think of it as me investing in my future chef." Just that one line made her cheeks flush all the way to her ears. She lowered her head, fiddling with the corner of her apron, not knowing how to hide her shyness. Soon, the first day of class arrived, much sooner than she expected. That morning, Tieu San woke earlier than usual. She washed her face with cool rainwater, brushed her hair neatly, and chose the simplest but cleanest outfit. Standing in front of the mirror, her heart fluttered nervously. What if I can't keep up? What if people look at me oddly? What if I'm not good enough for this class? Each thought made her heartbeat quicken. When she stepped outside, she saw Hai already waiting at the gate, leaning casually against his motorbike. The moment he saw her timid expression, he laughed softly. "You look like you're going to sit for a university entrance exam." "It's just a cooking class." Tieu San exhaled, but her face turned even redder. "It's just that. I'm nervous." "I'm here, right? What's there to be scared of?" A simple sentence, but it made her steps feel so much lighter. The baking classroom was wide, bright, filled with the faint scent of butter and vanilla. As soon as she walked in, Tieu San felt like she had returned to childhood, watching her grandmother knead dough and bake in an old clay stove. She was given an apron and a chef's hat. When she tied the apron around her waist, she tightened the fabric gently. It felt like she was putting on a dream she once thought she'd never reach. The teacher began with the basics: flour types, measuring by weight, how to whisk eggs without separating, how to fold batter properly, how to control oven temperature. Tieu San paid attention to every word, every movement. Whenever the teacher demonstrated something, she wrote everything down carefully, afraid to miss even a small detail. Her eyes shone, like a small flame slowly being rekindled. After class, she stepped outside and saw Hai waiting. Her entire face lit up instantly. She rushed toward him, hugging her notebook like a treasure. "Hi. I learned so much today." And she began talking nonstop. "I learned the difference between cake flour and bread flour. And why you have to sift flour first. And how to whisk eggs so they don't deflate. And the teacher baked cream puffs right in class. It smelled amazing." Hai leaned back lightly against his bike, one hand in his pocket, watching her with amusement. The more she talked, the more he could see joy sparkling in her eyes. Every time she mentioned something new, her eyes glowed like a child receiving a gift. "You really like it, don't you?" he asked. Tieu San nodded so hard her hair bounced. "I love it. The things I thought were hard are just techniques. I can't wait for tomorrow." Hai looked at her, really looked. Her innocent excitement made his chest warm. It had been a long time since he saw such pure joy on her face. And what made him happiest wasn't the cooking class, but the fact that she was slowly opening up, gaining confidence, daring to chase her dream. "That's good," Hai said, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder, his voice low and warm. "If you love it, that's all that matters. Leave the rest to me." In that windy afternoon, his words made Tieu San's heart tremble softly, in a peace she hadn't felt in a very long time. While Tieu San devoted herself to class each day, practicing every whisking technique, every method of folding batter, every way of adjusting oven temperatures, on the other side of their shared life, Hai was quietly attending a class of his own, a class on how to turn her dream into reality. She had no idea that while she sat in the classroom carefully writing every note, Hai was sitting in some cafe, laptop open, browsing through dozens of rental spaces. While she was learning how to pipe cream onto choux pastries, he was calling around to check prices for display cases, tables, chairs, ovens, and affordable sign makers. And every evening, when Tieu San told him, eyes sparkling, about the new things she'd learned, her excitement only strengthened his resolve. He wanted her to have a place she belonged to. A tiny corner filled with the smell of her cakes, with the light she chose, with the apron she would hang up every morning. A space where Tieu San could proudly say, "This is my bakery." Hai understood her deeply, how independent she was, how strong, how she never accepted anything without worrying about burdening someone. So he never told her what he was planning. Once, when he asked his best friend, a designer, for advice on what was needed to open a shop, his friend asked, "Does Tieu San know about this?" Hai simply shook his head. "If I tell her, she won't let me do it." His friend laughed. "Just a few months apart and you're already this attached?" Hai replied only with a quiet but unwavering smile. "I just want her to have something steady to build on. As for me, we'll figure that out later." That afternoon, while waiting for the initial design sketch to arrive, Hai sat at his screen, looking at a small rental space near a busy residential area. Large glass doors, beautiful natural light, trees outside casting cool shade, exactly the kind of place Tieu San would love. He imagined it. Her standing behind the counter, hair neatly tied, gloves on, smiling softly as she brought a freshly baked cake out of the oven. Beside her, a small sign displaying the shop name they would choose together. Just the thought of it warmed his chest. Even though his finances weren't strong, Hai kept pushing forward. He cut down on a few personal expenses, picked up extra freelance projects. Also, he could set aside a fund for what he called a gift for Tieu San. Not a grand, unreachable gift, but the beginning of an entirely new future. Hai always believed, as long as Tieu San had a chance, she could do anything. That night, when Tieu San happily told him about the first flan she successfully made in class, Hai simply listened, eyes never leaving her bright smile. He didn't tell her he had viewed a rental space that afternoon. Didn't tell her he had scheduled a meeting with the landlord. Didn't tell her the bakery design draft was sitting in his bag. He just smiled and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You just study well. Everything else, leave it to me." Tieu San had no idea that behind that smile was an entire plan he was weaving piece by piece. Because Hai believed, one day, her dream would sit on a bakery display shelf, warm with the scent of butter and vanilla, under soft golden lights. And when that moment came, he wanted to be standing right beside her, proud of the woman she had become. Since the day she started taking classes, it was as if Tieu San had stepped into a brand new chapter of her life. Her face was always bright, her eyes sparkled, and her smile appeared more often. Even the neighbors noticed she looked fresh and glowing, as if someone had lit a new source of energy inside her. Every morning she went to class, every afternoon she returned home carrying a sky full of excitement. She told Hai every little detail with heartfelt enthusiasm. "Today I whisked the eggs perfectly, the teacher said they rose evenly and beautifully. Today I learned how to make cream puffs, hard but so fun. Today I mixed the batter without a single lump." Whenever she talked, her eyes shone like sunlight and her hands moved around animatedly as she described everything. Hai sat there listening, unable to look away. He loved watching her happiness, loved seeing her dream grow day by day, and he loved the feeling of being the one beside her, listening to all these sweet little moments. Every day after coming home, Tieu San practiced again. She took careful notes, then stepped into the kitchen to repeat each step exactly as the teacher showed. Sometimes the cakes collapsed. Sometimes they didn't rise. Sometimes the bottoms burned. But Tieu San never gave up. Each time, she tried again, more careful, more patient. Seeing that, Hai would just smile and say, "What great chef hasn't ruined half a batch at least once? Take it slow, don't rush." Every evening, she brought him something new, cream puffs, butter cookies, silky flan. Hai was always the first person to taste them, like her personal research supervisor. Each time he took a bite, Tieu San sat across from him, watching every tiny expression on his face. "Is it good? Is it too sweet? Is the heat okay?" Hai pretended to analyze like a professional, but the truth was, everything she made tasted good to him, not because the technique was perfect, but because every piece held her effort and her heart. Some days, after hearing his suggestions, Tieu San would remake the batch, then happily run over to bring him a new sample to try. Just like that, her kitchen grew warmer, and Hai's heart grew fuller. On days she didn't have class, Tieu San would make a few trays of pastries to sell at the market. She didn't dare make much, just a few small boxes. She packed them neatly, wrote affordable prices, then took her old bicycle and rode to the market. At first, she felt shy. But when the first few boxes sold out, her cheeks turned pink with joy. "San's cakes are delicious. Give me 2 more boxes, better than what they sell at the bakery. When you have new ones, let me know, okay?" Those compliments moved her deeply. Her hands trembled, but her smile never faded. She never imagined her small homemade pastries could be loved like that. And what warmed her heart the most was returning home to see Hai waiting at the gate, watching her carry an empty basket with eyes full of pride. "Sold out?" "Yes. All gone." "Then tomorrow, let's make some more." Just one simple sentence, yet it made Tieu San feel like the whole world was standing beside her. Those days, her life had never felt so beautiful. Every day brought new motivation, every evening brought stories to tell, and every pastry she made carried a piece of hope. And she didn't know. Behind her smile, Hai was still quietly preparing for a very near future. The day when she wouldn't just bake to sell at the market, but would have her very own bakery. A place where her little childhood dream would finally come true.
Xin chào mọi người, rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video của mình. Chúc mọi người có một ngày mới vui vẻ và hạnh phúc. Video hôm nay mình kể về cô gái mang tên lý Tiểu San. Và sau những khó khăn thì hôm nay Tiểu San đã bắt đầu bước vào hành trình đi theo đuổi đam mê của mình nhờ có sự giúp đỡ của Hải. Và Hải là một người luôn bên cạnh an ủi động viên Tiểu San, giúp Tiểu San vượt qua khó khăn. Và lần này anh lại giúp Tiểu San theo đuổi ước mơ của mình. Chính vì điều ấy mà Tiểu San luôn biết ơn Hải và yêu người đàn ông này sâu sắc hơn. Và liệu rằng Tiểu San sẽ theo đuổi ước mơ của mình như thế nào và có gặp khó khăn gì hay không thì mời mọi người cùng đón xem ở video tiếp theo của mình nha. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video hôm nay. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người nha.